What is up, everybody? Jeff from Dream Loud Media here, back again with another video, and today we are going to be talking about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. So you've had your camera for a week, a month, a year, and you're still shooting on auto, and you want to learn how to shoot on manual, but you have no idea what you're doing. Hopefully after watching this video, you'll get a little bit better of an understanding of what shutter speed, aperture, and ISO mean. So in this video, I'm going to give more layman's terms for each of these things and what I like to call the exposure triangle. And here in the oncoming weeks, I'll go a little bit more depth into what each of these things mean. So let's start with shutter speed. Shutter speed is exactly what it says in the name. It's basically the speed that the shutter opens and closes when it takes a photo. If it opens and closes quickly, it's not letting a whole lot of light in. But if it opens and closes slower, it's going to let a lot more light in. So when is this important? If you are shooting, let's say, a soccer game, a football game, or any type of event where there's a lot of movement and you don't want your photo to be incredibly blurry, you're going to want to use a faster shutter speed because you're going to want to stop the action. So what about a slower shutter speed? Well, there's two instances where you would use a slower shutter speed. The first is if you are running out of light and you have a tripod, your subject isn't moving, you can use a slower shutter speed. It's going to let in more light, but if your subject moves at all, that subject will become blurry. The other instance is a scenario, maybe you're shooting something like light trails. You have one part of the picture that you want to be moving, but everything else in the photo will stay still. Unless you want your picture to just come out like a jumbled mess, you're definitely going to want to use a tripod when you're using a slower shutter speed. The second part of the exposure triangle is aperture. The aperture does two things. It also shows how much light is going to be coming into the photo, and it also is referred to as the f-stop because it's going to choose what's in focus in the photo. So for instance, if you're out taking photos and you want your photo to look like this, where your subject is in focus but everything in front of and behind your subject is out of focus, you're going to want to use a lower aperture, something along the lines of anywhere from f1.4 to f2.8. But if you're shooting a landscape and you want everything in the photo to be in focus, you're going to want to use more of a closed aperture, something more like f9. So basically, the lower your aperture is, or the higher the number is, the more in your photo is going to be in focus. And last but not least, ISO. ISO is basically a boost for your camera. It adds more light to the sensor to give you a brighter photo. But the problem with ISO is the higher the ISO, the more grainy or the more noise, as some people would say, is going to be in your photo. So if you're in a situation like I was shooting a concert the other night and I didn't have a lot of light on the stage, I had to crank the ISO up all the way and it left a lot of noise or grain in the picture. So I hope all of that made sense. I didn't want this video to be too long. I kind of wanted to give easy explanation on each of these things. Here in the near future, I'm going to make probably more of like a 10 or 15 minute video going into more depth on each of these things. The biggest thing to remember whenever you're taking photos is to not get discouraged. Knowing exactly what to set your camera at whenever you look at a setting isn't going to happen overnight. It happens with a lot of trial and error. When I first started taking photos, I would actually set my camera to auto so I saw what the settings were at, and then I would switch to manual. I would set my camera to those settings that I saw on auto and kind of tweak it from there. And doing that helped me learn a lot about camera settings. And at some point you're going to be able to get to a point where you can take a picture and to know what you're going to need to change to get your exposure right. So I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm more than willing to answer any kind of questions that you have. Maybe you're going to a session where you're going to need to take photos and you have no idea what you're doing, and you have questions about what settings to set your camera to. Like I said in my last video, it's okay to ask. So if you like this video, please share, subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.